Only the best teams can play in the Champions League, but each year some club end up getting humiliated. So in this video, we'll see the worst team of each Champions League. And the first club we'll see getting humiliated was actually the most successful of its country, Maccabi Tel Aviv. In 2015, they were the reigning champions, not only of the Israeli league, but also their domestic cup, drawn into a group with Chelsea, Dynamo Kiev and Porto. Expectations were there, but in the first match against Chelsea, a cold shower, 4-0 to the London side. Yet they could still recover. They were now going to play at home against Dynamo Kiev, but another lost game. Their morale took a hit. So in Portugal, they lost to Porto. When they returned home, they lost to Porto again and saw another 4-0 thrashing by Chelsea. Things were looking bad. Now there was only one match remaining against Dynamo Kiev, but to end their campaign in a cruel way, they lost by just 1-0. With 6 defeats in 6 games, Maccabi Tel Aviv conceded 16 goals and scored just 1. Oh, and we'll be ranking each campaign to see what is the worst of the last 10 seasons. At least Maccabi managed to score a goal, but the next team couldn't even do that. In 2016, there was another club that dominated its country, Dinamo Zagreb from Croatia. Conquering both the league and their domestic cup, they were used to winning. But being the best in Croatia meant nothing in Europe. Right in the first match against Lyon, a resounding 3-0 defeat. Next up, they faced Juventus, but this time in their home soil. It was time to show their fans they could fight, but things didn't quite go that way.
Dybala, prova il tiro da fuori, rete!
Juventus made it 4-0. In just 2 games, Dinamo Zagreb had already conceded 7 goals. Next, they lost to Sevilla at home, and in the 4th round against Sevilla again, another humiliation, 4-0. At this point, they hadn't scored a single goal. Still, they could find a net against Lyon, but in the second half, it was Lyon who scored, winning 1-0. At this point, Dinamo was completely eliminated. They just wanted to avoid further humiliation. So against Juventus in Italy, they focused more on defending and only lost 2-0, wrapping up this horrible campaign. With 6 losses in 6 games, Dinamo conceded 15 goals and scored none, not even one. They finished with the worst campaign of that year, tied on goal difference with Maccabi Tel Aviv. But since they haven't scored any goals, it's the worst of the video so far. But spoiler alert, Dinamo will not finish as the worst team in the video. So while Dinamo has never managed to go far in the Champions League, the next club to embarrass itself is actually a 2-time winner. The 2017-18 season features some small teams, like Maribor from Slovenia, but no one performed as poorly as Benfica. Benfica was the reigning 4-time Portuguese champion, but had just sold some players like Ederson and Nelson Semedo. So the first shock came right in the opening match, when they faced CSKA at home and lost 2-1. A bitter defeat. But it was nothing compared to what happened next. Their next opponent was Basel from Switzerland. Surely Benfica could win this one. But then...
He needed again, Lang! And he's onside for 2! Well, he sealed the points on match night. Could be in again here, Oberland! That ball straight call!
5-0. Benfica's biggest defeat in Champions League history. Neither the fans nor the players, not even the coach Rui Vitória, could have imagined this happening. But after CSKA and Basel, the other team in the group was even stronger, Man United. So they lost again, 3 losses in a row. But it was far from over. Against Man United in England, it was 2-0 for the Red Devils, with one of the goals being an own goal by Benfica. Then against CSKA, another 2-0 loss, with yet another own goal. So the last match was at home against Basel. It was the last time for Benfica to have at least one win. But once again, the Swiss side showed their strength, making it 2-0. Benfica finished that Champions League season with 6 defeats, only 1 goal scored and 14 conceded. That was bad. But Dinamo Zagreb's campaign still remains as the worst so far. Then in the following season, Benfica was again on the same group as the worst team of that year. But this time, the victim was someone else. In the 2018-19 season, the draw created a very tough group. Benfica, who had improved, Bayern Munich and Ajax. A true group of death. But there was still one more team, AEK Athens. What a bad luck for the Greeks. So in their first match against the prime Ajax, they were welcomed like this.
It's fallen for Neres. That's a decent ball, and the cross will fall away. There a third goal before the final whistle. Dolberg waits in the centre, and there is a third goal.
3-0, a terrible start. Then they faced Benfica at home, but this time Benfica had strengthened its squad. So even though AEK managed to score twice, Benfica scored 3. Now the next opponent was the giant Bayern Munich, so there was no chance. A 2-0 loss in Germany and then another 2-0 at home. Their hope was to get at least one win. But while AEK's squad was valued at 39 million euros, Benfica was worth 10 times more and Ajax was valued at over 400 million. So in the next match they lost to Ajax again, and against Benfica they had their final nail to the coffin.
Grimaldo! E gol!
AEK scored just 2 goals and conceded 13, but surprisingly their campaign was still better than Benfica's from the year before. Moving on, let's go to the 2019-20 season, with a team that had the worst defense so far. It was a club that ended up in a group with Liverpool, Napoli and Salzburg. Genk, from Belgium. Genk was unlucky. They hadn't played in a tournament since 2011 and their first match was against Salzburg, which had a young star named Haaland.
Haaland's in already to release Haaland here to make it 2. Juventus had covered good ground. Haaland on the hat-trick.
Haaland made a hat-trick. Then Salzburg scored 3 more, while Genk only managed to score twice. So the Belgians started off with a humiliating 6-2 defeat. But in the next match, a surprise. They held Napoli to a draw. But after that, they faced the defending European champions, Liverpool. So Klopp's team showed no mercy, making it 4-1. But there was still more matches to go. They traveled to Anfield, where Genk lost again, and against Salzburg at home, it was another 4-1. The only team that hadn't crushed them was Napoli, but in the final round, the Italians decided to make up for it, winning 4-0. In 6 matches, Genk scored 5 goals but conceded 20, becoming the worst team of that Champions League. But unlike the other teams in this video, at least they got a draw, so they were slightly better. Now let's move to the 2020-21 season, which started with empty stadiums. But for some fans this was a good thing, cause they didn't have to watch their team get humiliated in person. Ferencváros from Hungary qualified for the group stage for the first time since the 1990s, but they ended up in an extremely tough one, alongside Dynamo Kiev, Juventus and Messi's Barcelona. So in their first match, Messi's team welcomed them in a humiliating way.
Here comes Messi. Ansu Fati trying to get there, and he tricks it out to Coutinho. Pedri with a good finish. Messi tees up Dembele.
5-1. Next, they faced Dynamo Kiev, where with a 90th minute goal, the Hungarians managed to draw. But in the following match, they faced Juventus, losing 4-1. Now the next match was against Juventus in Italy, but Ferencváros fought hard, even scoring a goal. However, Juventus came back to win again. After that, they couldn't recover. Against Barcelona at home, it was 3-0, and in the final match, they lost to Dynamo. With 5 defeats and 1 draw, Ferencváros was the worst team of that season. Their biggest achievement was Messi and Ronaldo scoring against them. But at least they did slightly better than Genk. So far, Dinamo Zagreb's campaign still hasn't been challenged. Now let's move on to the 2021-22 season, where a club performed so poorly that never returned to the Champions League. In Group C, alongside Ajax, Sporting and Dortmund, there was Besiktas. That year, the Turkish club had won both their National League and the Turkish Cup. With players like Pjanic, Batshuayi and others, they could try something. So in their first match against Borussia Dortmund, they put up a good fight. With goals from Haaland and Bellingham, they lost 2-1. Despite the defeat, Besiktas showed they could compete there. However, in the next match against Ajax, they lost 2-0, and in the next game against Sporting, it was 4-1. But it got worse. In the next game against Sporting again, they got thrashed 4-0. Following that, they even lost to Ajax at home 2-1, and to seal the deal, against Dortmund, Besiktas was literally destroyed.
Here's Schultz. Haaland, he scores! Of course he does!
With goals from Haaland, Royce and Malen, Besiktas finished their campaign with a 5-0 defeat. In 6 matches, Besiktas scored just 3 goals and conceded 19, ending up with a goal difference of -16. The Turkish team now surpasses Dinamo Zagreb, having the worst campaign so far. It seemed impossible to have a worse campaign than that, until the following season arrived. For the first time since 2010, a Scottish team other than Celtic qualified for the group stage, with high expectations on making it far in the tournament. Glasgow Rangers. Rangers were literally the current Europa League runners-up, only losing the title on penalties. So they went to the Champions League with the same manager, landing in a group with Liverpool, Napoli and Ajax. It was a very tough group, but they could still surprise them. So Rangers' strength would be tested in the first game against Ajax, but it didn't start well.
Good whip on it and it's in. Oh, and the deflection takes it in. Now Kudus goes on it. Tavernier makes it 3. It could be 4. It is 4.
4-0. Then they faced Napoli at home, but even in front of their own fans, another defeat. 3-0. But that was nothing compared to what was coming next. Well, after losing to Ajax, they went to face Liverpool at Anfield, where they couldn't do anything, losing 2-0. It already was 3 consecutive losses. But in the next match against Liverpool at Ibrox Stadium, Rangers took the lead. It could be a comeback, but soon after, Liverpool equalized, turning around, scored the third, the fourth, and at the end,
He's immaculate, and the finish is even better. And Salah's off again. Oh, and Diogo Jota doesn't score. Harvey Elliott is a goal scorer in the UEFA Champions League.
in Scotland, Rangers lost 7-1. Not only was it the biggest defeat at that group stage, but also the heaviest defeat in Rangers' history. Never had they conceded 7 goals in a single match. But the humiliations didn't stop there. In the next match, they lost 3-0 to Napoli and then 3-1 to Ajax. So, in just 6 group stage matches, Rangers conceded 22 goals. They only scored twice and ended with a goal difference of -20, making it the worst campaign of the video so far. Let's see if the next 2 teams can be even worse than that. Now we've arrived at the 2023-24 season, where one of the biggest favorites, Man City, landed in a group with Leipzig, Young Boys and Red Star. Red Star is the best team in Serbia, entering the tournament as the current Serbian Cup and National League winner. But the Champions League is on another level, so in the first match they lost 3-1. Then they managed to pull off a draw against Young Boys. Red Star could do something there. But against Leipzig, they lost both matches, lost to Young Boys, and finally they were defeated by Man City again. With 5 defeats and 1 draw, Red Star scored 7 goals but conceded 15, a goal difference of -8. Definitely not as bad as the others we've seen so far. But that was the last time we had a group stage. The 2024-25 season introduced the league phase, where each club played 8 matches against a range of different teams. It's a format that could allow small clubs to pull off a surprising run. But that was not the case for the Swiss club Young Boys. On match day 1, Young Boys faced Aston Villa in Switzerland. But they started on the wrong foot, losing 3-0. But the worst was yet to come. In the next match against Barcelona, they were thrashed 5-0, 2 massive defeats. Then they faced Inter Milan, where they managed to put up a great fight, drawing 0-0. Until
In from Federico Di Marco and turned home! Truly by Marcus Thuram!
another defeat, so their morale hit rock bottom and the losing streak continued. They lost to Shakhtar Donetsk, they were defeated 6-1 by Atalanta, 5-1 by Stuttgart, they were beaten by Celtic, and in the last match they faced Red Star. But even against the worst team from the previous season, they lost at home. In 8 matches, Young Boys lost all of them, scoring just 3 goals and conceding 24. So Young Boys finished with a goal difference even worse than that from Rangers, -21. But Rangers played fewer matches. So making a calculation on the average goal difference by match, it's Rangers that finished with the worst campaign of the last 10 years, with Young Boys coming right behind them. So if you enjoyed this video, check out this other one that I posted. Thanks for watching and bye.